Ditch the cardigan, Mandy. You look like a librarian. And now all the librarians out there are going to be offended. Not a real librarian, a movie librarian. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another full month of nothing new video. I cannot believe that this month is almost over. We only have a week left in my full month of nothing new, which I think is absolutely crazy. But for today's video, we're going to be talking about my top 10 most used brushes. I do get a lot of questions from you guys about what brushes I recommend or which ones are my favorites. And I thought a great way to address all those questions related to brushes is to show you guys the 10 brushes that I use the very most. These are the brushes that I reach for pretty much on a daily basis. Most of them are affordable. I have a couple in here that are just a little bit more expensive, but I'm a big believer that you can get a really good makeup look without spending a lot of money on your brushes. So I hope that you guys are excited about this one. I hope that you enjoy it. Before we jump into it, special welcome to any of you that are new to my channel. I hope that you will consider subscribing if you haven't yet done that. Also hit that notification bell just so that you know every time I upload a new video. And with that said, let's go ahead and talk about my 10 most used brushes. Alright, so I want to kick things off with my face brushes. Now I'm not really going to do these in any particular order necessarily, but I think I'm going to start with this one because this one is a brush that I use every single day, and it is the Luxie tapered highlighter brush. I actually own 2 of these brushes and got both of them during the full year that I was doing BoxyCharm, and I absolutely love this brush. I definitely use it mostly as a highlighter, but I also love using this brush specifically when I use my Hourglass Ghost palette because the pan sizes in there are relatively small and my larger face brushes just don't fit very well inside those pans. This works great for the under eye setting powder inside that palette, or really any under eye setting powder as well. It's nice and soft and fluffy. It fits perfectly on the under eye. It's the perfect size for applying highlighter but also kind of blending it. I love the shape of this brush. It's not too small, but it's also not too large. I love the density of this brush. It's not too dense, but it's also not so soft that I feel like it's too flexible. It does a good job of laying product down, and it is so incredibly soft. I absolutely love this brush. I have both of them and they are both constantly dirty because I use at least one of these every single day, sometimes even both of them on a daily basis. It is just such a great little brush that I feel like could do a million different things if you needed it to. My next most used brush would have to be this one right here. This is the Real Techniques blush brush. This is another one that I own 2 of. I use them both regularly. When one gets too dirty, I usually will pull out the other one before I end up washing this guy. In fact, I just washed my other one. It's right here. But I love this brush. I do use it as a blush brush, but you could absolutely use this as a powder brush. It's very, very soft. It's quite large. So you could certainly use this for either a setting powder or a finishing powder. Now, I've heard others say they think this brush is too large for blush, and I can see how you would think that looking at it because it is pretty large for a blush brush, but it is tapered at the top. So I like to put my blush just right here at the top, just a little bit, tap it off, and then I'll really just kind of feather it right on my cheek area there, and I feel like it does a great job of laying down the blush color, but also diffusing it at the same time so you can't see where your blush starts and where it stops. It's incredibly soft. It washes up so well. I've had this brush for, I want to say, about 3.5 years now, and I've washed it so many times and it does not ever splay or shed. It's such a lovely brush. I absolutely love this one and use it every single day. The next brush that is one of the most used in my collection is this one right here. This is the Luxie 532 Round Top Blender brush. This is my most used foundation brush. Now here's the thing with foundations and brushes. I go through phases with applying my foundation. I will go through a good solid month where I apply my foundation just with my fingers. Then I'll go through a good solid month or 2 where I only use a sponge. And then I'll go through a good solid month or 2 where I only use a brush. But for those periods of time where I am preferring to use a brush for any foundation, this is the one that I use. It's very nice and dense. It's quite large, but it's not too large to where it doesn't fit in some of the smaller areas on my face. It does such a great job of laying down your foundation, smoothing everything out. It doesn't leave any streaking. It's just a really great basic foundation brush, and if I'm ever using a foundation brush, it's pretty much always this guy right here. And since we are on those Luxie brushes, I want to mention this one next. This is the Luxie Duo Fiber Powder Brush. Again, this came in that set that I talked about, and I love this brush for any sort of cream or liquid or cushion type of cheek products, whether that be a bronzer or a blush. I have other duo fiber brushes in my collection that I like. Elf makes a really good one that's super affordable. I know it's more affordable than this one, but what I love so much about this one, I know I've mentioned this before, is the shape of it. It has kind of more of a paddle sort of pinched shape to it, which for some reason I feel like gives you so much more precision with where you're applying your color product to your cheeks. I love it with my Milk bronzer stick. I especially love it with my cream blushes, like the Physicians Formula one, the one that I got from Yes Style. I love it with those ones. I love it with my Bounce and Blur blush. I will always use this brush for that. And because I have been on such a kick lately with cream cheek products, this has definitely been getting a lot of use lately, and I absolutely love it. Absolutely recommend it. The next brush I want to talk about is this one right here. This is from Moda Brushes. This was actually the first PR package that I ever got. I think over a year ago. They sent me a couple of sets of their brushes, and this is one of the sets that they sent me. I think it's called their Mythical set. This was my favorite set by far. I do get a lot of use out of all of the brushes inside this set, but this is by far my favorite one. If you look at this one, it might remind you a little bit of the blush brush from Real Techniques, but I want to show you guys these two side by side. This one has a little bit more width, but it also is even a little bit more tapered than the Real Techniques one. I don't know if you can really tell, but it has a very nice pointy tip on it. And what I love this brush for the very most is bronzer, believe it or not. Now, I'm kind of in the hunt for a really good paddle-shaped bronzer brush. I feel like I've talked about this a few times over the last year and a half. I have this bronzer brush from Morphe that I love the feel and the shape and the density of this brush, but it sheds like crazy on me, which drives me absolutely nuts. But I just really have always loved the shape of a more kind of paddle-shaped bronzer brush. So to be perfectly honest, I'm kind of still on the hunt for my perfect ideal bronzer brush. I'm really wanting to try out the one from Lisa J, her BK Beauty line. It looks like she has a really great bronzer brush that would kind of fit my preferences in regards to that. But the one that I use the most lately is this one. And I think what I love so much about this brush, because it is pointed, it gives me a really good kind of bronzer, which is what I like to do with my bronzer. I love using my bronzer, not just to add warmth to my face, but also just give me a little bit of a chiseling effect right here on my cheekbones. And this does a really good job of getting the majority of the color right there in kind of that little socket right there, but then because it's so soft and it's kind of tapered out a little bit, it also blends everything out. This is a great brush that would work for pretty much any product that you put on your cheeks. It's great for contour, it's great for blush, and it's even good for highlight because it has such a small point to it. You can apply just a little bit of highlighting powder or even cream on the tip of it. Just dust it on the tops of your cheekbones and you can get your entire cheek makeup look with this one little brush. So if I am traveling and I'm going very light in what I'm packing when I travel, sometimes I will take this brush and only this brush for every single product that I put onto my cheeks. The performance of this brush is really, really great. It washes up really well. I've used it a ton over the last year and a half, and I think it's fantastic. So that is it for my 5 most used face brushes. Before I move into the eye brushes though, I just want to say, you may have noticed that I did not include a setting or finishing powder brush, and that is because I don't typically on a day-to-day basis set my entire face or do a finishing powder all over. But I did want to show you guys one bonus brush. I'm not counting this as one of the 10 because I don't use it as much as the other ones, but if I am setting an area of my face down, like if I'm using a foundation that's just exceptionally dewy, that is just too dewy for me, or if I'm using a bronzer that I know can kind of skip on a more tacky base, I will dip into a translucent powder with this little brush right here. This is just a little kabuki brush from e.l.f. that I have had for probably 8 or 9 years, and I just leave this sitting on top of my vanity, and for those days when I'm going to use a setting powder, usually just on my cheeks or sometimes on my forehead, this is the brush that I will use. I don't even know if e.l.f. makes this brush anymore. It's very, very dense, it's very fluffy, it's very soft. It's also very difficult to wash this thing because it is so incredibly dense, but it is a great little powder brush for those occasional times when I do set down some areas of my face. Now we're going to jump into my 5 most used eye brushes. Now if you watch my videos, if you've been watching them for a while, there's a good chance that none of these are going to surprise you very much, but I do have a newer addition in here that might surprise some of you guys. So let's start off with the one that I think is probably the most obvious, and it is the Morphe M504. Pretty much any eyeshadow video that I do, and I do a lot of them here on my channel, you'll know about this brush. I use it pretty much in every single eye look that I ever do. This is always the brush that I set down my base with. If I do set down my base or my concealer, I use this as my first transition brush pretty much every single eye look that I do. I just love this brush. It's a fantastic price. I think this is only $6 from Ulta. It's the perfect size and in my opinion the perfect density. I love a good, really large and soft, not overly dense brush to start off with in my transition area because I think it does such a good job of just diffusing color in such a soft and almost barely there kind of way. And I've tried a lot of blending brushes over the years. This is still my favorite one for that very first transition shade. Now if I'm having a very sensitive eye day, I do find this one can get just a hair scratchy, but for the most part I think it's a pretty nice soft brush. The quality is great. It washes really well. I've had this one for over 2 years now and just really, really love this one. I don't go a day without using this brush. This is always the first brush that I reach for. My next most used brush has got to be this guy right here. This is also from Real Techniques. This is their shader brush. Again, I believe the packaging on this thing has changed, but I do believe they still offer this in one of their sets. It's just a really small, kind of C-shaped, dense little packing brush. It does a good job of packing color where you need it, but also blending out color. What I use this the very most for is for my lower lash line. This is probably my most reached for lower lash line brush when I just want to apply any color on my lower lash line. This just does such a perfect job at doing that. And it is so soft for that very delicate and sensitive under eye area. Speaking of small brushes, I also wanted to mention this one right here. This is the Morphe M507. This is basically the Morphe M504 shrunken. It has the same kind of flexibility this one has. I would say it's moderately flexible. It's nice and soft. It has the same taper. It's just a lot smaller for doing a little bit more detail and deepening work. I love using this brush to deepen out my outer corner, but still kind of get a nice blend just through my crease. You could certainly use this on your lower lash line if you like a more kind of blown out lower lash line. I think this would be a great brush to use for that. Or if you want to go in with a couple of shades on your lower lash line, you could start off with something a little bit lighter with this brush and go a little bit lower, and then use something like this to kind of more densely pack things closer to your actual lash line. Another great little brush that I use pretty much every single day. The next most used brush, and this is a relatively new addition to my brush collection, would have to be the Wayne Goss number 18 brush. Now this is the most expensive eye brush that I've ever purchased, I think, but I have to say for me it was totally worth it. I love this brush. I love everything about this brush other than the price, but I understand why it's expensive. On those days when my eyes are very sensitive, so say that I've been doing a lot of eye licks for videos recently, and I find that these two brushes right here can be just a little bit too scratchy. This brush I feel like can do what, in fact, I would say what all three of these brushes can do, but in a softer way to where it doesn't irritate my eyes. This is just such an incredibly soft brush. When my eyes are very sensitive, it's not one that I find starts to irritate those tender areas of my eyes, which are really this outer corner right here that can kind of start to weep a little bit. This one does not cause any issues with that for me, but what I love more than anything about this brush is just how multi-purpose it is. For me personally, the way this brush is shaped just makes it extremely versatile. This brush is a little bit more dense than the Morphe M504, but because of its density, I think it does a really good job of packing color on or applying color either to your lid or to your outer corner, even to your lower lash line because it's kind of pinched like this, but it's not so dense that it can't still blend your shadow. So if you are someone that just wants one eye brush that's going to do everything, this is a brush that I think you could get an entire eye look out of. I've washed it a few times. I haven't had any issues with it. And I just think if you're someone with sensitive eyes and you don't mind investing a little bit more in an eye brush, this is definitely one I would recommend. And my last most used eye brush would have to be this little guy right here. Now this is from Juvia's Place. This came in their purple set that they have on their website. This is called their small buffer brush. I love this little brush. This reminds me a lot of the Real Techniques little brush right here, except this one's bigger, and sometimes I like a bigger brush for my lower lash line, or if I'm just wanting to pack a little bit of color just right here in the outer corner and kind of quickly just like blend it out. This does a really good job for that. It's also a great brush if you want to just quickly pack one color all over your lid and just kind of like buff it into your crease down along the lower lash line. Great brush if you are into those easy eyeshadow looks. I love this one. The only downside to this brush, I'd have to say, is that it comes in a set. I do like the other eye brushes that came in this set. I do not like the face brushes that came in it though. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. But this is by far my most used one, and I do honestly reach for this, especially on those days when I want to do a really quick, simple eye look. Alright guys, and that is it for my 10 most used eye brushes. I do want to mention 2 honorable mentions for you guys. These are newer brushes to my collection, so I didn't really feel like I should mention them because I haven't had them for very long. The first one is this one right here from BH Cosmetics. This one I believe is their number 6. It's like their pro blending brush. I will link it down below. Now this one is a little bit stiffer than the Morphe M504. You can see the M504 is pretty flexible. This one has a little bit more stiffness to it, so I think this one's a little bit better for like packing color, but it does a great job of blending out color as well. A really nice multi-purpose brush. I think the size is really great and it's incredibly soft. So this is a great one that I definitely have been using a lot more recently. And the next one is this one right here. This one is from Coastal Scents. This is their Pro Blending Fluff Brush. This is a great little brush. You can get this thing not on sale for like $5, and if you find it on sale, you can find this for for closer to $3. I think I paid $2.50 for this brush, and it's pretty dang amazing. I've been very impressed with this thing. Haven't washed it yet, so I can't really say how it washes up, but it reminds me a lot of what my MAC 217 brush was like back before it got very old and worn out. Great little brush, especially for the price, and one that I've been reaching for quite a bit lately. Alright guys, and with that, that is it for my most used makeup brushes. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I really hope that it was helpful for you guys. I would love to hear now from you guys. What is your most used face brush and your most used eye brush? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for stopping by. I hope that you are all having a great day. One more reminder, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I'd love for you to do that before you leave. And that is it for today. I will see you all very soon in my next video. Bye. Right after I'm done with this video, I have to go to my son's basketball game, and I feel like the red pink eyes are a little intense for high school basketball. I have to just wear my sunglasses and pretend like I'm a celebrity. Yes, I'm here for number 12. Toilet. There it is. Every video, toilet flushing.